Let's talk about something that might sound a little strange at first. What if the biggest thing holding back pediatric care today wasn't a lack of medical knowledge, but the software running on the office computers? We're going to dive into how a major shift in technology is completely changing the game for pediatric practices, moving beyond just clinical skill to the very tools that make it all possible.
Just let that sink in for a moment. This statement is making a huge claim that in the very near future, the software a pediatrician uses, their electronic health record, or EHR, is going to be the single biggest factor separating a successful practice from one that's just drowning in work. We're talking about software being as fundamental as a stethoscope. It's a pretty bold prediction.
And this chart, which comes straight from the American Academy of Pediatrics, shows you exactly why that software is so critical. Just look at these numbers. Nearly half of a pediatrician's day, 49%, is spent just on documentation. That's almost as much time typing as it is actually seeing and treating patients. It's just wild.
And this isn't just about being annoyed with paperwork. It's a genuine crisis. You've got 1 in 3 pediatricians reporting burnout, and even worse, you have thousands of preventable errors in things like growth tracking and immunization slipping through the cracks every year. And it really all comes down to one core problem. Most EHR systems are built for adults, and they're just not cut out for the very unique needs of treating kids.
Okay, so let's get specific. Where is all this pressure actually coming from? Well, it boils down to 5 huge recurring pain points. These are critical failures that are basically baked into the DNA of the generic, adult-focused systems that so many pediatricians are forced to use. So think about the daily grind. You've got pediatricians literally manually plotting points on growth charts trying to spot problems. They're battling with constantly changing immunization schedules and trying to sync with state registries. They're buried under that tsunami of documentation we just talked about, and they're trying to navigate this insanely complex maze of compliance rules. Each one of these is a major headache, but put them all together, it's completely overwhelming. But what if the technology was designed from the ground up to actually solve these problems instead of causing them? This is where we see a real turning point, a purpose-built solution that represents a totally different way of thinking. So let's see what that actually looks like in practice.
So here's the first huge shift, right? We're moving from being reactive to being predictive. So instead of a doctor manually plotting points and just hoping they spot a dangerous trend, the system does it for them, instantly. It flags when a child crosses a critical growth percentile, and it can even spot potential risks months or even years ahead of time. I mean, that is a total game changer for early intervention.
And you see the exact same principle with immunizations. That nightmare of trying to reconcile records with state registries or figuring out a complex catch-up schedule for a new patient, that all gets automated by AI. This isn't just about saving time, it's about safety. It's a powerful way to eliminate a huge source of potential clinical errors.
Okay, now this is the big one. Remember that 49% stat, the one about half the days spent on documentation? Well, imagine an ambient AI scribe that just listens to the patient visit and generates a super accurate clinical note in less than 12 seconds. This is what gives doctors their nights and weekends back. This lets them focus on the child in the room, not on the computer screen. And the improvements go way beyond just fixing what's broken. We're talking about features designed for pediatrics from day one. Things like integrated screening tools, like the MChat, that give you instant scores, a family portal that actually makes parents happier and more engaged, and workflows that build in national standards, like Bright Futures, right into the visit. It stops being just a record-keeping tool and becomes a whole ecosystem for pediatric care.
So that all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at the data, because honestly, the results are pretty stunning.
This table really tells the whole story. Let's just pause here for a second and really look at this. Daily documentation time slashed by more than half. Growth parameter errors, they plummet from over 12% to less than 0.5%. That's incredible. And check out the provider well-being score. A lower number is better here, and that drop from 68 to 31, that signifies a huge real-world improvement in a pediatrician's daily life.
Let's just pull out that one metric, because it's so dramatic. This is what a 60+% reduction in documentation time actually looks like. We are talking about getting 2, 3, even 4 hours back every single day. For any doctor, that is absolutely life-changing.
And all that newfound efficiency, it goes straight to the practice's bottom line. You know, by pretty much eliminating claim denials from coding errors and by freeing up the schedule so you can actually fit in sick kids on the same day, practices are seeing a really significant boost in their annual revenue. So this isn't just about practicing better medicine, it's about building a healthier, more sustainable business.
You know, when you put all of this together, the time saved, the massive reduction in errors, the better patient outcomes, it becomes pretty clear we're not just talking about a software upgrade anymore. We're looking at a new standard of care for pediatrics.
And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, right? The whole goal is to let pediatricians do the job they signed up for, the job they love. The technology should be this invisible, powerful partner working in the background, not some clunky obstacle you have to fight with all day long.
So this really leaves every practice with a pretty critical question to ask themselves. Is your technology an engine that's pushing you forward, or is it a heavy anchor holding you back? Because as we get closer and closer to 2025, the evidence is overwhelming. Choosing an EHR isn't just an IT decision anymore, it's one of the most important clinical and financial decisions a practice can possibly make.